My name's Tasha, and I'm 22 years old, and before I tell you anything else, I need you to know that I had to wear a kitchen apron on what should have been the best day of my life. Yeah, you heard that right. An apron. Not a graduation gown. An apron. With little tomatoes printed on it. Little smiling tomatoes, like they were mocking me. Because my dad decided that my college graduation, the thing I worked my butt off for 4 straight years to achieve, the thing that cost more than a small house and aged me approximately 15 years, meant absolutely nothing compared to my sister's wedding reception. He actually looked me dead in the eye, with zero shame, zero hesitation, and told me I had to skip walking across that stage to serve appetizers to distant relatives I'd never even met before. Relatives who probably didn't even know I existed. Relatives who would look at me in that apron and assume I was actual hired help. And you know what the worst part is? I actually did it. I actually stood there in that kitchen, sweating like I was in a sauna, my hair frizzing up like I'd been electrocuted, carrying trays of mini quiches that were so hot they were basically weapons, while my classmates were throwing their caps in the air and taking pictures with their families and crying happy tears and posting Instagram stories with inspirational captions about chasing their dreams. But here's the thing, and this is why you need to stick around for this entire story, because I promise it gets absolutely insane. What happened next changed absolutely everything. I mean everything. My whole life flipped upside down, spun around 3 times, and landed in a completely different universe in a way I never saw coming, and honestly, it's the only reason I'm not currently in therapy 5 days a week eating ice cream straight from the carton and watching sad movies. But before I get into all that chaos, all that beautiful, messy, karma-filled chaos, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button like it owes you money, smash that subscribe button like your life depends on it, and drop a comment telling me where in this world you're watching from, because I promise you, this story is going to make you so angry you'll want to throw your phone. And hopefully make you laugh so hard you'll snort, and I need to know I'm not alone in thinking my family was absolutely, certifiably insane. Seriously, tell me where you're from. I want to know this madness resonates across continents, oceans, dimensions, whatever. Because this story, I swear on everything I love, still makes my left eye twitch when I think about it. Like a full-on twitch. People think I'm having a stroke. Let me paint you a picture of my family real quick, so you understand the full level of dysfunction we're working with here, because without context, you might think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. If anything, I'm downplaying it because the full truth sounds like a bad reality TV show that got canceled for being too depressing. In my house, there were 2 daughters. Melissa, my older sister, and me. But here's the thing. We weren't treated like 2 daughters. Oh no. We weren't even treated like 1 daughter and 1 slightly less favorite daughter. No. Melissa was treated like the second coming of royalty, like she was Princess Diana reincarnated but better, like she was a gift from the heavens wrapped in designer clothes and sprinkled with fairy dust, and I was treated like the help. Like the person who exists in the background to make sure everyone else's life runs smoothly, while my own life is a complete dumpster fire that nobody notices is burning. My dad worshipped the ground Melissa walked on. I'm not exaggerating even a little bit. This man would literally rearrange his entire work schedule, cancel important meetings, call in sick, fake his own death probably, if Melissa needed him to drive her somewhere. One time she called him from the mall asking for a ride home because she didn't feel like taking the bus, and this man left a work presentation, a presentation he'd been preparing for weeks, to go pick her up. Meanwhile, I once asked him to come to my science fair where I won 2nd place in the entire district, beating out like 200 other kids, and he told me he had to wash his car. His car. The car that was already clean. The car that he'd literally washed the day before. I saw him wash it. When I pointed this out, he said it needed another wash because there was a bird dropping on the windshield. 1 bird dropping. He chose 1 bird dropping over his daughter's achievement. That's when I knew. That's when I really, truly knew that I was living in some kind of alternate universe where normal parent rules didn't apply to me. My mom? Oh, she was the silent enabler. The queen of looking the other way. She never stood up for me. Not once. Not 1 single time in my entire life. She'd just give me these sad little looks, these pathetic puppy dog eyes like she felt bad but wasn't going to do anything about it, which honestly hurt worse than my dad's blatant favoritism because at least he was honest about not caring. At least with him, I knew where I stood. I stood nowhere. I was nowhere. But my mom would pretend like she cared. She'd pat my shoulder and say things like, "Your father's under a lot of stress," or, "You know how your sister is," like that explained everything. Like that made it okay that I was treated like a piece of furniture that occasionally needed dusting. My relatives? They fed into it too. Oh boy, did they feed into it. Every family gathering was just one big Melissa appreciation party. A festival of Melissa. A parade in honor of Melissa. Oh Melissa, you look so beautiful. Did you do something different with your hair? Oh Melissa, you're so smart. How do you manage to be so perfect at everything? Oh Melissa, you're so funny. Tell that story again about the time you did that completely mundane thing that wasn't actually funny, but we're going to laugh anyway because you're Melissa. Meanwhile, I'd walk in and maybe get a, "Oh hey, you're here too." Or sometimes just a nod. Sometimes not even a nod. Sometimes just a vague look of confusion like they couldn't quite remember who I was or why I was there. I started calling myself the family Wi-Fi because that's exactly what I was. Everyone used me. Everyone needed me to function. I was the one who remembered everyone's birthdays. I was the one who organized family events. I was the one who helped my cousins with their homework and drove my grandma to her doctor's appointments and fixed my dad's computer every single time he downloaded a virus from clicking on sketchy emails. But nobody thanked me unless I stopped working. And even then, they didn't thank me. They just got mad that the Wi-Fi was down. They'd be like, "Why isn't this working? What's wrong with you? Why can't you just do this one simple thing?" That was my entire childhood and teenage years. Just existing in the shadow of my perfect sister while doing everyone's dirty work and getting zero recognition for it. Zero appreciation. Zero love. Just criticism for not being more like Melissa. So when I finally made it to my senior year of college, I was so excited I could barely breathe. Like, actually struggled to take full breaths. My roommate asked if I needed an inhaler. For years of absolute hell. For years of surviving on instant noodles that I'm pretty sure weren't actually food, just salted cardboard with flavor packets. For years of 3 hours of sleep per night because I had to work 2 jobs to pay for textbooks that cost more than my rent. For years of coffee that tasted like dirty water mixed with broken dreams and desperation. For years of group projects where I did all the work and everyone else showed up 5 minutes before the presentation to put their names on it. For years of professors who didn't know my name until finals week and then still got it wrong. For years of wondering if I was even smart enough to be there, if I was an imposter, if someone was going to figure out I didn't belong and kick me out. For years of anxiety attacks in bathroom stalls and crying in my car and calling my mom sobbing only to have her say, "Well, college is hard for everyone," like that helped. But I made it. I actually made it. Despite everything. Despite having zero support from my family, despite my dad never once asking how my classes were going, despite Melissa constantly talking about how college was the best time of her life while I was actively drowning in assignments and stress, I made it. And when I got that email with my graduation date, I literally screamed in my dorm room. Like a full horror movie scream. My roommate thought someone died. She came running out of her room with a can of pepper spray. That's how excited I was. I immediately texted my family group chat. Graduation is May 19th. Mark your calendars. I'm finally done. I'm graduating. I'm actually graduating. I added like 15 exclamation points and a bunch of celebration emojis, the confetti ones and the champagne ones and the graduation cap ones, because I wanted them to feel my excitement. I wanted them to understand that this was huge. This was everything. My mom replied with a thumbs up emoji. Just one. A single thumbs up. That's it. That was her response to 4 years of my life culminating in one important moment. One thumbs up. I stared at that thumbs up for like 5 minutes trying to figure out if she was joking. She wasn't. My dad didn't reply at all. Nothing. Radio silence. I thought maybe he didn't see the message, so I sent another one directly to him. Still nothing. And Melissa? Melissa sent back, "That's the same day as my wedding." And my entire body just went cold. Like someone dumped a bucket of ice water over my head and then pushed me into a freezer and locked the door. I stared at that message for probably 10 minutes straight. Just stared at my phone like if I looked at it long enough, the words would change into something else. Something better. But they didn't. The same day. The exact same day. What are the odds? What are the actual mathematical odds that after 4 years of college, after 16 weeks per semester times 8 semesters, after however many days that is, my graduation would land on the exact same day as my sister's wedding? And here's the thing that really gets me, that really makes me want to scream into a pillow until my voice gives out. Melissa had been engaged for over a year. Over a year. She'd known her wedding date for months and months. She'd sent out save the dates 6 months before. 6 months. Those fancy expensive ones with her and her fiancé's picture on them looking all happy and in love. She'd booked the venue a year in advance. The caterer. The photographer. The DJ. The florist. The person who makes those fancy chair covers. Everything. She'd planned every single detail down to the color of the napkins. But not once. Not one single time in all those months of wedding planning and dress fittings and cake tastings and whatever else she was doing, did anyone think to mention to me that maybe I should check if that date conflicted with anything important in my life. Not once. And you know what? I know they knew. I know they had to know. Because I'd mentioned graduation was coming up. I'd talked about it at family dinners. I'd said things like, "I can't wait for May, and this time next year I'll be done with school." They knew. They just didn't care. Or they cared, but Melissa's wedding was more important, so they figured I'd just deal with it. Which is exactly what they expected me to do. Just deal with it. Just shut up and deal with it like I always did. I tried so hard to stay calm. I really did. I took deep breaths. I counted to 10. I did that thing where you're supposed to imagine a peaceful place. None of it worked. I called my dad because I figured, okay, this is just a misunderstanding. We'll figure something out. I'm his daughter too, even if he acts like he forgot half the time. He'll want to be there for my graduation. This is important. This is his youngest daughter graduating from college. Surely that matters. So I called him and I was so nervous my hands were shaking, and I said, "Dad, my graduation is the same day as Melissa's wedding. What are we going to do?" And you know what he said? You know what this man who helped create me, who is supposed to love me unconditionally, what he said to me? He laughed. He actually laughed. Like I'd told him a joke. And then he said, "Well, you'll just have to skip your graduation. Melissa's wedding is way more important. You can graduate anytime. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event for your sister." I swear I felt my brain short-circuit. Like actual sparks flying in my head. I actually pulled the phone away from my ear and looked at it to make sure I was talking to the right person, that somehow the universe hadn't gotten confused and connected me to a stranger who just happened to sound like my dad, because surely my own father did not just tell me that 4 years of my hard work and sacrifice and literal blood, sweat, and tears meant less than 1 day of my sister wearing a white dress and eating cake. I tried to explain to him, using my calmest voice even though inside I was screaming, that graduation isn't something that happens anytime. It's not like going to the movies. It's not like getting coffee. You get 1 day. 1 ceremony. 1 chance to walk across that stage wearing that ridiculous robe that makes everyone look like a wizard, and get handed that diploma that you spent 4 years and probably $50,000 earning, and feel like all the suffering was worth something. But he cut me off. He actually cut me off mid-sentence, like what I was saying was so unimportant he couldn't even let me finish, and said, "Tasha, don't be selfish. This is your sister's special day. She needs you there. We all need to be there to support her. Your graduation is just a ceremony. It's not that deep. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Not that deep. For years. For years of my life. Not that deep." I wanted to throw my phone into a wall. I wanted to scream so loud the neighbors would call the police. I wanted to reach through the phone and shake him until his brain started working properly. But instead I just said okay and hung up, because what else was I supposed to do? What could I possibly say that would make him understand? He'd already made up his mind. in his world, in his twisted version of reality. Melissa's happiness was the only thing that mattered, and I was just supposed to fall in line like I always did, like the good little daughter who never complains and never causes problems. I didn't give up though. Not right away. I'm not a quitter. I spent the next few days trying to figure out some kind of compromise, some solution that would let me have both. Maybe I could go to graduation in the morning, it started at 9, and then drive to the wedding in the afternoon. The wedding was 2 hours away, but I could drive fast. I could speed. I could probably make it. Maybe I could attend just the wedding ceremony and skip the reception. Just show my face for the important part and then leave. Maybe someone could FaceTime me during my graduation walk so the family could at least see it even if they weren't there in person. Maybe I could pre-record a message for the wedding and they could play it while I was at graduation. I came up with like 10 different solutions. Reasonable solutions. Creative solutions. Solutions that showed I was trying to accommodate everyone. But every single time I brought it up to my dad, and I mean every single time, he shot me down immediately. Like he didn't even think about it. Like he'd already decided the answer was no before I even opened my mouth. The wedding is all day. We need you there for setup. The ceremony is at 4, we need you there by noon. You're being difficult. Why are you trying to make this complicated? Why are you trying to ruin your sister's day? Why can't you just be happy for her for once? And that last one really got me. That one hit different. Why couldn't I be happy for her for once? Like I hadn't been supporting her my entire life. Like I hadn't been her cheerleader and her helper and her emotional support sister for 22 years. I was always happy for her. I was happy when she made the cheerleading squad and I didn't. I was happy when she got into her dream college and I had to settle for my backup school because we couldn't afford too expensive tuitions. I was happy when she got engaged to her perfect fiancé with his perfect job and his perfect family. I was always happy for her. But apparently wanting one day, just one single day to be about me instead of her, that made me selfish. That made me the villain. My mom, as usual, said nothing. She was a professional at saying nothing. She could win awards for how good she was at staying silent when I needed her to speak up. I even went to Melissa directly and tried to explain how important this was to me. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd understand. She'd been to college. She'd had her own graduation. She knew what it took. She knew about the sleepless nights and the stress and the anxiety and the overwhelming feeling of finally making it to the end. So I sat her down and I said, Melissa, I'm really happy for you. I'm so happy you're getting married, but my graduation is a really big deal to me. I've worked so hard for this. Is there any way we can figure something out? And she just looked at me like I was speaking another language. Like I just said the most confusing thing she'd ever heard. And she said, I really need you at my wedding, Tasha. You're my sister. You're in the bridal party. Can't you just watch a video of your graduation later? They record those things, right? It's basically the same thing. A video. She wanted me to watch a video of other people graduating, strangers I'd never met, while I served shrimp cocktail at her reception. She genuinely thought that was the same thing. That watching other people have their moment was equivalent to having my own moment. I felt so small in that conversation. So completely invisible. It was like my feelings didn't exist. Like I didn't exist except as someone to make her life easier, to make her wedding more special, to be part of her perfect day. And the worst part? I could see it in her eyes that she genuinely didn't understand why I was upset. To her, this was obvious. Her wedding was obviously more important than my graduation. Why was I even questioning it? Why was I being so difficult about something so simple? So I made a decision. A stupid, painful, self-destructive decision that I regret, but also don't regret in a weird way because it led to everything else that happened. I decided to just go along with it. I told myself I was being the bigger person. I was being mature. I was putting family first. All those things people say when they're actually just letting themselves get walked all over, but they need to feel like they're making a noble choice. I emailed my university and told them I couldn't attend graduation. I made up some excuse about a family emergency because I was too embarrassed to tell them the truth. They sent me back this really nice message about how they understood, and they were sorry I'd missed the ceremony, and they'd mail me my diploma and congratulations on all my hard work, and they were proud of me. And reading that email made me cry. Like, actually sob at my laptop in my dorm room at 2 in the morning. Ugly crying. The kind where your face gets all red and splotchy and your nose runs and you can't breathe properly. Because these strangers at the university registrar's office, people who didn't know me, people who'd probably never even seen my face, showed me more care and understanding in 3 sentences than my own family had in weeks. In years, really. My entire life, if I'm being honest. I told my roommates I wasn't going to graduation and they absolutely lost their minds. They literally could not believe what I was telling them. They thought I was joking at first. One of them, Jessica, said, "Tasha, this is insane. You have to go. This is your graduation. Just tell your family no." And I tried to explain that I couldn't just tell my family no. That's not how it works in my family. You don't say no. You don't set boundaries. You don't put yourself first. That's selfish. That's wrong. That makes you a bad daughter and a bad sister and a bad person. But she didn't get it. How could she? Her family was normal. They showed up for her stuff. They celebrated her achievements. They saw her. So I just shook my head and said, I have to do this, and I packed up my dorm room early. I drove home 3 days before I needed to because my dad said they needed help with wedding preparation. And I watched all my friends post their graduation pictures on social media, pictures of them smiling in their caps and gowns with their families, with their parents looking proud, with captions about new beginnings and chasing dreams and being grateful for the journey. While I sat in my childhood bedroom that still had posters from high school on the walls and stuffed animals from when I was 10 and felt like the biggest failure in the world. The wedding day arrived, and let me tell you, it was even worse than I imagined. Way worse. Like exponentially worse. I woke up at 5 in the morning because my dad was banging on my bedroom door saying we needed to go to the venue early to help set up. 5 a.m. On what should have been my graduation day. On what should have been the day I woke up excited and nervous and proud. Instead, I woke up exhausted and sad and already dreading the next 12 hours. I put on black pants and a nice shirt because I figured at least I'd be dressed semi-professionally, at least I'd look put together even if I felt like I was falling apart inside. But the second I got to the venue, before I could even walk through the door, my dad handed me an apron. A full kitchen apron. White with little red tomatoes on it. With the venue's logo embroidered on the front. He held it out to me like it was perfectly normal, like this was expected, and he said the caterer needed extra help and I was going to assist with food service. I stared at that apron like it was a death sentence. Like he'd just handed me a shirt that said, "I don't matter," across the front. I actually said, and my voice was shaking, "Dad, I'm not staff. I'm your daughter. I'm a guest. I'm in the bridal party." And he looked at me with this annoyed expression, like I was being purposely difficult, like I was trying to ruin everything, and he said, "We're all pitching in today to make sure Melissa's day is perfect. Stop complaining and be helpful for once. Be helpful for once." As if I hadn't spent my entire life being helpful. As if I wasn't currently missing my own college graduation to be helpful. As if being helpful wasn't the only role I'd ever been allowed to play in this family. I wanted to throw that apron in his face. I wanted to walk out. I wanted to get in my car and drive to my graduation and show up 2 hours late and walk across that stage anyway. But I didn't. I put on the apron. I tied it around my waist. And I went into that kitchen. The kitchen was hot and chaotic and smelled like a mixture of roasting meat and cleaning supplies and my own sweat. The catering staff barely looked at me. They just pointed at things and told me what to do. Carry this. Stir that. Don't let the soup burn. Arrange these crackers on the plate. Make sure the garnish is centered. Move faster. Pay attention. You're in the way. I served food for 6 hours straight. 6 hours. While my classmates were walking across the stage in their caps and gowns, I was refilling chafing dishes with chicken marsala that smelled good but tasted like my own bitterness. While they were taking pictures with their families and their diplomas, pictures they'd frame and look at years later and remember as one of the best days of their lives, I was carrying trays of mini quiches to tables full of people who didn't even know my name. People who looked through me like I was invisible. People who snapped their fingers at me to get my attention. While my classmates were celebrating 4 years of hard work, posting on social media, getting congratulations texts, making plans for the future, I was scraping plates in a kitchen that smelled like old grease and disappointment and broken dreams. And the whole time, the entire time, I could see my family out there through the kitchen door having the time of their lives. My dad was walking around looking so proud, like he'd personally accomplished something incredible, like he was the best father in the world. His chest was all puffed out. He kept patting people on the back and laughing at jokes that probably weren't funny. My mom was crying happy tears during the toasts, dabbing at her eyes with a fancy handkerchief, smiling at everyone. Melissa looked absolutely beautiful, I'll give her that, and I hated that I had to admit it. She looked like a princess. Her dress was perfect. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. Everything was perfect. And her new husband seemed nice enough. He was handsome and polite, and his family was wealthy, but every time I saw her laughing and dancing, every time I heard her voice over the microphone thanking everyone for coming, I felt this horrible burning sensation in my chest. Not quite anger. Not quite sadness. Something worse. Something darker. Resentment. Deep, ugly resentment that made me feel like a terrible person, but I couldn't make it go away no matter how hard I tried. The absolute worst moment, the moment that I replay in my head over and over like a nightmare, came during the reception when I was walking around with a tray of champagne glasses. My arms were so tired they were shaking. My feet hurt because I'd been standing for hours in shoes that weren't meant for standing. My face hurt from forcing smiles at people who didn't see me. And I overheard some relatives talking at one of the tables. They didn't know I was behind them. They didn't know I could hear them. One of them, some aunt I'd met maybe twice in my life, said, "Where's the other daughter? Tasha?" I thought she'd be here. Isn't this a family event? And my aunt, my own aunt, my dad's sister who'd known me since I was born, who'd supposedly loved me my whole life, said, "Oh, she's around here somewhere. She's helping out in the kitchen, I think." You know how she is. Always in the background. Not like Melissa. Melissa's the star. Tasha's more of a support person. Always in the background. Like that was my defining characteristic. Like I'd chosen to be invisible instead of having it forced on me my entire life. Like I enjoyed being forgotten and overlooked and treated like I didn't matter. I had to walk away before I dropped that entire tray of champagne. Before I dumped it over my aunt's head. Before I started screaming in the middle of my sister's wedding reception. I went into this little storage closet near the kitchen, a tiny room with shelves full of extra napkins and tablecloths and cleaning supplies. And I just stood there trying not to cry because I was wearing mascara and I didn't want to look like a raccoon on top of everything else. But the tears came anyway. They always do when you're trying to hold them back. They came fast and hard and I couldn't stop them. I covered my mouth with my hand so nobody would hear me sobbing. And I guess I was in there longer than I thought. Time kind of stopped existing because suddenly the door opened and light flooded in, and there was my little cousin Emma. Emma's 16 and obsessed with her phone like all teenagers, always taking pictures and videos and posting everything on social media. She took one look at me crying in that storage closet in my stupid apron with tomatoes on it, and her eyes got all wide. Her mouth literally dropped open. She said, "Tasha, oh my God, are you okay? What's wrong? Why are you crying?" And I tried to play it off because that's what I do. I make myself small and pretend everything is fine. I said, "Nothing, I'm fine, just tired. It's been a long day. Don't worry about it." But she didn't believe me. She's a smart kid. She looked at me for a long moment, really looked at me, and then she said, "Why are you working at the wedding? Why aren't you out there with everyone else? Your family. You should be sitting at a table. You should be dancing. What's going on?" And I didn't have a good answer for her. I didn't know what to say that wouldn't sound completely insane. How do you explain to a 16-year-old that your own father values you so little that he made you skip your college graduation to work as kitchen staff at your sister's wedding? So I just said, "I'm helping out. It's fine. Your aunt needed extra help. It's not a big deal." My voice cracked when I said it. Emma shook her head. She looked angry. Actually angry on my behalf, which was more than my own parents had ever been. She said, "This isn't right. You should be out there. Your family. This is messed up. And then she hugged me. This 16-year-old kid stepped into that storage closet and gave me a hug while I cried into her shoulder, and, honestly, it was the only moment of kindness I experienced that entire day. The only moment where someone saw me and acknowledged that something was wrong. What I didn't know, what I had absolutely no idea about, was that Emma had her phone in her hand the whole time. I didn't know she'd been recording. Not the hug part, thank God, because I looked like a complete mess, but she'd recorded me earlier. She'd been watching me during the reception. She'd seen me carrying trays and refilling drinks and cleaning up spills, and she'd thought something seemed off. So she'd recorded me. Just a short clip, maybe 15 seconds long, of me serving food to a table of guests. And in the video, you can see my face. You can see how miserable I looked. How exhausted. How dead inside. And apparently, you could also see me wiping away tears while I refilled the bread basket. I didn't even realize I was crying at that moment. I thought I was holding it together. But the camera doesn't lie. The camera caught everything. She posted it on TikTok that night after the wedding was over. She posted it with a caption that said, "My cousin had to skip her college graduation to serve food at my other cousin's wedding." This isn't okay. This is actually really messed up. Family shouldn't treat family like this. That's it. That's all it said. Simple. Direct. True. And I had no idea. I went home that night, took off that horrible apron and threw it in the trash, took the longest shower of my life trying to wash off the smell of the kitchen and the feeling of worthlessness, and went to bed feeling like I'd hit rock bottom. Like this was the lowest point of my life and things couldn't possibly get worse. I didn't check my phone. I didn't check social media. I didn't want to see my classmates' graduation pictures. I didn't want to see their happiness when I felt so empty. I just wanted the day to be over. I just wanted to sleep and pretend none of it had happened. But while I was sleeping, while I was having stress dreams about being trapped in that kitchen forever, that video was spreading. Fast. I woke up the next morning to my phone absolutely exploding. Like I thought something was broken. I thought maybe there was an emergency. My phone was buzzing so much it was literally moving across my nightstand. I grabbed it, still half asleep, and opened it to like 200 notifications. 200. I opened TikTok and my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. Emma's video had 3 million views. 3 million. In less than 12 hours. I refreshed the page thinking it was a glitch. It wasn't. 3.2 million now. And the comments. Oh my God, the comments. I started scrolling and I couldn't stop. Thousands and thousands of people were defending me. People were furious. Actually furious on behalf of someone they'd never met. This is abuse. Her family is toxic. Someone start a GoFundMe for this girl to get away from these people. The sister should be ashamed of herself. The parents failed. This is parentification. This is favoritism. This is wrong on every level. I'm so angry right now I can't even articulate it properly. If my parents did this to me, I would never speak to them again. On and on and on. People were stitching the video with their own stories about being the forgotten child in their family. Women were making response videos talking about how daughters are always expected to sacrifice for everyone else, how girls are raised to be helpers and supporters while boys get to be the main characters in their own lives. Family therapists were using it as an example of parentification and golden child syndrome and scapegoat dynamics. Psychology students were analyzing it. News accounts were picking it up. It was everywhere. I was everywhere. My face was everywhere. And I hadn't even known I was being filmed. I sat there in my bed, still in my pajamas, hair a mess, eyes puffy from crying the night before, just scrolling and feeling this weird mix of validation and horror. Because on one hand, finally people saw me. People understood. I wasn't crazy. This wasn't normal. This wasn't okay. All those years of thinking maybe I was too sensitive, maybe I was overreacting, maybe I was the problem, all of that disappeared. These strangers on the internet, millions of them, were confirming what I'd known deep down but never been allowed to say out loud. That I'd been mistreated. That my family was wrong. That I deserved better. But on the other hand, my family was about to lose their minds. I knew it. I could feel it coming. And part of me was terrified. But another part of me, a part one didn't know existed, was kind of excited. Kind of satisfied. Like finally there would be consequences. Finally, they couldn't just brush this under the rug and pretend everything was fine. My phone started ringing and my stomach dropped. My dad. I stared at his name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He called again immediately. I let it go to voicemail again. Then Melissa called. Voicemail. Then my mom. Voicemail. Then my dad again. Then Melissa again. Then my aunt. Then my uncle. Then relatives I hadn't talked to in years. Everyone was calling. Everyone wanted to talk to me. Now they wanted to talk to me. Now I was worth their attention. I turned my phone on silent and just watched it light up over and over. They left voicemails. So many voicemails. I listened to them later and they were exactly what I expected. My dad was angry. Actually yelling. His voice was so loud I had to turn the volume down. He said I was embarrassing the family. That I needed to tell Emma to take down the video immediately. That I was being vindictive and petty. That I was ruining Melissa's happiness. That people at his work were asking him about it. That he couldn't believe I would do this to them. Do this to them. Like I'd done anything. Like I'd made the video. Like I'd forced them to treat me this way. Melissa's voicemail was different, but equally awful. She was crying. Her voice was all shaky and dramatic. She said I was making her wedding all about me. That I was jealous and bitter and trying to steal her spotlight. That this was supposed to be the happiest time of her life, and I'd ruined it. That everyone was talking about the video instead of talking about how beautiful the wedding was. That I was a terrible sister. That she couldn't believe I would be so selfish. My mom's voicemail was the one that hurt the most though. She wasn't angry. She was disappointed. She said, "Tasha, please fix this. Your father is very upset. Your sister is very upset. Can't you just smooth this over? Can't you just make this go away? Why are you doing this to us? Smooth it over." Like I was the one who'd done something wrong. Like I was the one who'd made myself miss my own graduation. Like I was the one who'd handed myself an apron and told myself to work in the kitchen. Make it go away. Like I had that power. Like I could control the internet. Like I could make millions of people unsee what they'd seen. I didn't call any of them back. I couldn't. I physically couldn't. My hands were shaking too much to dial. My throat was too tight to speak. I was too angry. Too hurt. Too overwhelmed. Instead, I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I posted my own video. I set up my phone, sat on my bed, took a deep breath, and I told my story. The whole story. I explained about the graduation. About the conflicting date. About my dad's response. About being told I was selfish for wanting my own moment. About the apron. About the kitchen. About serving food while my classmates walked across the stage. About the storage closet. About crying alone while my family celebrated. All of it. I didn't hold back. I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't try to make anyone look better than they were. I just told the truth. And my hands were shaking the entire time. My voice cracked multiple times. I had to stop and take deep breaths. But I did it. I posted it. And then I immediately regretted it and wanted to delete it, but it was too late because people were already watching it, already commenting, already sharing it. That video went even more viral than Emma's. Way more viral. 5 million views in the first day. Then 10 million. Then 15 million. I couldn't keep track. The number kept going up and up and up. News websites started picking up the story. Local news first. Then regional. Then national. Headlines everywhere. Woman forced to miss graduation for sister's wedding speaks out. Family favoritism goes viral after wedding video. The Forgotten Daughter, a story of parentification and golden child syndrome. College graduate's heartbreaking story resonates with millions. I got interview requests from morning shows. Good Morning America wanted me. The Today Show wanted me. People magazine wanted to talk to me. BuzzFeed wrote an article. So did HuffPost. And Scary Mommy. And every single parenting blog on the internet. My email inbox was flooded. My DMs were flooded. Everyone wanted my story. Everyone wanted to talk to me. And my family? My family was panicking. The attention was overwhelming. Completely overwhelming. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days because I was terrified someone would recognize me. I ordered food delivery. I ignored my door. I just sat on my couch refreshing my phone over and over, reading comments, reading articles, watching response videos. But honestly, it also felt incredible. For the first time in my entire life, people were on my side. Strangers from all over the world were sending me messages of support. Women were telling me their own stories of being overlooked and undervalued by their families. Stories that made my story look mild in comparison. Women who'd missed weddings for their siblings' graduations. Women who'd given up scholarships because their brothers needed help. Women who'd delayed their own lives to raise their siblings' children. Women who'd been told over and over that their dreams didn't matter as much. People were calling me brave. Me, brave. The girl who'd put on an apron and served food when she should have been graduating. The girl who'd stayed silent her whole life. The girl who'd never stood up for herself once. They thought I was brave. And it made me realize that maybe, just maybe, I deserved better than what my family had given me. Maybe I wasn't the problem. Maybe I never had been. My dad's response to all this attention was absolutely typical and predictable and exactly what I knew it would be. At first, for the first day or two, he thought it would blow over. He actually laughed about it when my mom brought it up. He said people on the internet didn't know the full story and they'd move on to something else in a few days. He said this kind of thing happens all the time. Someone posts something dramatic, everyone gets upset, and then they forget about it. He said I'd see. It would all die down and everything would go back to normal. But it didn't blow over. It didn't die down. It got bigger. And bigger. And bigger. And when his coworkers started asking him about it, when he overheard people in the break room talking about that video with the girl who missed her graduation, when his friends from church started mentioning it, when the pastor pulled him aside after service to ask if everything was okay at home, when strangers at the grocery store recognized him from the videos people had found of him at the wedding and gave him dirty looks, when someone left a printed copy of a news article about the story. On his desk at work, his tune changed real quick. Suddenly, he was furious. Suddenly, this was all my fault. Suddenly, I was the worst daughter in the world. He called me, finally got me to answer because he kept calling and I knew he wouldn't stop, and he screamed at me. Actually screamed. I had to hold the phone away from my ear. He said I'd humiliated him. I'd made him look like a terrible father. I'd destroyed his reputation. The whole community was talking about our family. People were judging him. People were calling him a bad parent. How could I do this to him? How could I be so cruel? How could I air our private family business to the entire world? And I just listened quietly until he was done, until he'd run out of steam, until there was just heavy breathing on the other end of the line. And then I said, very calmly, very coolly, Dad, the internet disagrees with you. Millions of people think you're a bad parent. Maybe they're right. And I hung up. I hung up on my father. Something I'd never, ever done before in my entire life. And it felt amazing. My sister's response was different. Slower. More complicated. She didn't call me screaming like my dad. She didn't leave angry voicemails. Instead, she texted me a few days later saying we needed to talk. Just that. We need to talk. Part of me wanted to ignore her like I'd ignored everyone else. Part of me wanted to block her number and never speak to her again. But I was curious. I wanted to know what she could possibly say. What kind of excuse she could come up with. So I agreed. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory, a place where neither of us could make a scene. I got there first and sat in the back corner, ordered a coffee I didn't really want, and waited. She showed up 10 minutes late, which was typical for her, always making an entrance. But when she walked in, I barely recognized her. She looked terrible. Like she hadn't slept in days. Her perfect wedding glow was completely gone. Her hair wasn't styled. She wasn't wearing makeup. She had bags under her eyes. She looked, for the first time in her life, like the forgotten daughter instead of me. She sat down across from me and immediately started crying. Not delicate, pretty crying. Ugly crying. The kind I'd been doing for years, and she said she was sorry. She said she didn't realize how much she'd hurt me. She said she'd been so focused on her wedding being perfect, on everything going exactly how she'd planned, that she never stopped to think about what I was giving up. She said she'd watched my video 50 times. She said she couldn't sleep because she kept hearing my voice saying how I'd felt invisible my whole life. She said she was a terrible sister. She said she was sorry. Over and over. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And here's the thing that really messed me up. I could tell she meant it. This wasn't a fake apology to make herself feel better or to make the internet stop talking about her. She was genuinely devastated. Genuinely remorseful. She kept saying she didn't know. She didn't know it was that bad. She didn't know I felt that way. She didn't realize. But I was also still so angry. So deeply, fundamentally angry. Because how could she not know? How could she live in the same house as me for 18 years and not notice that I was treated differently? How could she accept all the attention and praise and love and never once question why I wasn't getting the same? So I told her the truth. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just spoke very calmly and very clearly. I told her that sorry doesn't give me back my graduation. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that I spent what should have been the proudest day of my life, the day I'd been working toward for 4 years, serving appetizers in a kitchen. Sorry doesn't fix the fact that for my entire childhood, my entire life, she got everything and I got nothing. She got the love and the attention and the praise and the support, and I got whatever scraps were left over, which was usually nothing. And she never once, not one single time, stood up for me. She never told Dad he was being unfair. She never asked why I couldn't come to her dance recital when Dad came to every single one of hers. She never questioned why she got a new car for graduation and I got $50. She just accepted it all like it was normal. Like she deserved it and I didn't. She just cried harder. She said she knew. She said she'd always known she was the favorite, but she never thought about what that meant for me. She said she was selfish. She said she was a bad sister. She said she wanted to fix it, but she didn't know how. And I told her the truth. I told her I don't know if she can fix it. I don't know if we'll ever be close like sisters are supposed to be. Too much damage. Too many years of being treated like I didn't matter. But maybe we can start over. Maybe we can try to be something. Not best friends. Not the kind of sisters who talk every day and know everything about each other. But maybe friendly. Maybe civil. Maybe sisters who can be in the same room without me wanting to scream. She said she'd take it. She said she'd take anything. She said she wanted to try. My mom's response was the most mom response ever. She stayed in the middle. She tried to keep everyone happy. She called me and said she understood I was hurt, but couldn't I see how upset everyone else was? Couldn't I try to see their side? She said the video had hurt Dad's feelings. It had hurt Melissa's feelings. The family was in crisis. People weren't talking to each other. Thanksgiving was going to be awkward. Christmas would be ruined. Couldn't I just apologize? Couldn't I just say I'd exaggerated? Couldn't I just make it go away? And I told her no. For the first time in my life, I told my mother no. I said I wouldn't apologize for telling the truth. I wouldn't say I exaggerated when I didn't. I wouldn't make myself small again to make everyone else comfortable. And if Thanksgiving was awkward, that wasn't my fault. If Christmas was ruined, that wasn't my problem. They ruined my graduation. They didn't get to demand I fix their guilt. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "When did you get so hard?" And I said, "When I realized being soft just meant getting stepped on." She didn't have a response to that. But after that conversation, she started making more of an effort. She started texting me more, checking in, asking how I was doing, actually listening when I answered instead of just waiting for her turn to talk. Baby steps. Tiny steps. But steps nonetheless. And my dad? My dad tried to fix things in the most dad way possible. The most stereotypical, misguided, completely missing the point way possible. He showed up at my apartment one day unannounced, which was already annoying because I hate unexpected visitors. He was holding a big shopping bag from an expensive store. He looked uncomfortable, like he'd rather be anywhere else. He handed me the bag and said, "I'm sorry you're upset." I bought you this. I hope it helps. I opened the bag. Inside was a designer handbag. A really expensive one. Probably cost like $2,000. It was beautiful, I'll admit that. Soft leather. Perfect stitching. The kind of bag I'd never buy for myself because who spends $2,000 on a bag? But that wasn't the point. A handbag. He thought a handbag would make up for missing my graduation. For 22 years of being treated like the spare daughter. For a lifetime of being invisible. I looked at that bag, and then at him, and I said, unless that bag is filled with 4 years of tuition money and a time machine to take me back to my graduation day, I don't want it. He got all offended. His face turned red. He said he was trying to be nice. That he'd spent a lot of money on it. That I was being ungrateful again. Always ungrateful. Could never just accept anything graciously. And I just laughed. I actually laughed in his face because the absurdity of it all was too much. This man still didn't get it. After everything. After the videos and the articles and millions of people explaining exactly what he'd done wrong, he still thought money could fix what he'd broken. He still thought I was the problem for being upset instead of him being the problem for never seeing me. For never valuing me. For never loving me the way he loved Melissa. I gave him back the handbag and I said, keep it. Give it to Melissa. She's the daughter you actually care about. And I closed the door. And I heard him stand there for a minute, probably debating whether to knock again, and then I heard his footsteps walking away. I found out later, through my mom, that he cried when he got home. That he went into his office and closed the door and she could hear him crying. That he watched the videos of me, both Emma's video and my video, over and over. That he finally understood what he'd done. That he was devastated. That he kept saying, I didn't know. I didn't know it was that bad. I didn't know she felt that way. And part of me, a small part, felt satisfied hearing that. Like finally there were consequences. Finally, he couldn't just ignore me and move on. But another part of me felt sad. Deeply sad. Because it shouldn't have taken a viral video for him to see me. It shouldn't have taken millions of strangers telling him he was wrong for him to realize it. He should have just loved me. He should have just seen me. All those years, I was right there, I was always right there, and he just never looked. But he never apologized. Not really. Not the way I needed him to. He sent me a text a week later that said I should have handled things differently. That's it. That's as close to an apology as I got. 6 words. I should have handled things differently. Like making me miss my graduation was a minor scheduling mishap. Like treating me like I was worthless my entire life was just a small mistake. I didn't respond. I left him on read. And that felt powerful in its own way. But here's where the story gets really good. Here's the part that made all of that pain, all of that suffering, all of those years of feeling invisible, feel worth it. A few weeks after everything went viral, after the videos had been viewed over 20 million times combined, after every news outlet had covered the story, after I'd become accidentally famous for the worst reason, I got an email from my university, from the Dean of Students. The subject line said, important meeting request. My stomach dropped. I figured I was in trouble somehow. Maybe they didn't like all the attention. Maybe they thought I was making the school look bad. Maybe I'd violated some social media policy I didn't know existed. So I went to that meeting prepared to defend myself, prepared to apologize if I needed to, prepared for more disappointment. But when I walked into the dean's office, she smiled at me. Actually smiled. A warm, genuine smile. She stood up and shook my hand and asked me to sit down. And she said, we've been following your story. The faculty has been following your story. The whole university has been following your story. And we want you to know that what happened to you isn't right. You worked too hard to not have your graduation moment. So we'd like to offer you something. We'd like to hold a special graduation ceremony just for you. I didn't understand at first. I just stared at her. I said, what? Like I hadn't heard her correctly. Like surely I'd misunderstood. And she explained. They wanted to set up a full ceremony. The stage. The decorations. The music. Professors in their full regalia. The university president would be there. They'd do the whole thing. Just for me. They said that education matters and students matter, and I deserved to walk across that stage. I deserved to have my moment. They said they were embarrassed that one of their graduates had had to miss the ceremony. They said it reflected poorly on them that they hadn't done more to help me find a solution. They wanted to make it right. And I just sat there in disbelief. Because I couldn't process what she was telling me. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to me. I was the invisible daughter. I was the one who got forgotten. I started crying right there in her office. Embarrassing, ugly crying. The kind where you can't catch your breath. Where your face gets all red and splotchy. Where snot runs down your face and you can't control it. I couldn't believe it. After everything, after feeling so small and invisible and worthless, my university saw me. They valued me. They were willing to go through all that effort, all that trouble, just to give me the moment my family had taken away. The dean handed me a box of tissues and waited patiently while I cried. She said, "You deserve this. You earned this. And we're going to make sure you get it." The ceremony was scheduled for 3 weeks later. They gave me time to prepare. Time to invite whoever I wanted. Time to process what was happening. I invited my roommates. All of them. They'd been with me through everything. They'd seen me at my lowest. They'd held me while I cried. They'd told me I was worth more than my family believed. I invited Emma, my little cousin who'd started all of this. She was so excited she screamed on the phone. I invited a few professors who'd been kind to me over the years. Professor Martinez, who'd let me turn in an assignment late when I was having a breakdown. Professor Chin, who'd written me a recommendation letter and told me I was one of the brightest students she'd ever taught. Professor Williams, who'd stayed after class to talk me through a panic attack. I invited some cousins who'd reached out after the video to apologize for not speaking up sooner. Cousins who said they'd noticed the favoritism but didn't know what to do. Cousins who said they were sorry. And you know who I didn't invite? My dad. My mom asked if she could come and I said yes, but only if she came alone. She asked about Dad and I said no. I said he'd had his chance to be there for my graduation and he'd chosen Melissa's wedding instead. This ceremony wasn't for him. Melissa asked if she could come and I said no. Not because I was being petty, though part of me was definitely being a little petty, but because I needed this moment to be mine. Just mine. No family drama. No guilt. No making myself small so someone else could feel big. No walking on eggshells. No worrying about anyone else's feelings. Just me. For once, just me. The day of the ceremony arrived and I was so nervous I felt sick. I kept thinking something would go wrong. They'd cancel it. It was all a joke. I'd get there and the auditorium would be empty. But when I arrived at the university, there were people there. Real people. My roommates were there in the front row, holding signs they'd made. Ridiculous signs with my name and congratulations messages and inside jokes. Emma was there with her mom, both of them smiling and waving at me. My mom was there, sitting in the back, crying already. The professors were there in their full graduation regalia, those ridiculous medieval robes and funny hats. The university president was there. The dean was there. The registrar was there. Even some students I didn't know were there. People who'd seen my story and wanted to support me. The auditorium wasn't full, maybe 40 people total, but every single one of them was there for me. They were there because they wanted to be. Not out of obligation. Not because they had to. But because they cared. When they called my name and I walked across that stage, I swear time stopped. Everything went quiet. I could hear my heartbeat. I could feel every step. The applause wasn't loud because there weren't hundreds of people like a normal graduation. But it was genuine. Those people were clapping for me. For my hard work. For my achievement. For surviving 4 years of college. For surviving 22 years of being the forgotten daughter. And when the dean handed me my diploma and shook my hand and said, "Congratulations, Tasha. You earned this. We're so proud of you," I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Maybe ever. I felt worth it. I felt like I mattered. Like I was enough. Like I was valuable. Not because I was useful to someone else. Not because I was making someone else's life easier. But just because I was me. That moment, that simple moment of walking across a stage and getting a piece of paper, healed something in me that I didn't even know could be healed. My roommates took so many pictures. So many videos. Emma posted about it on TikTok, and that video went viral too. Update: she got her graduation ceremony. The comments were overwhelmingly positive. People were crying. People said they were so happy for me. People said this was the ending I deserved. People said they'd been following my story, and this made them believe in humanity again. My mom took pictures too. She looked proud. Actually proud. Maybe for the first time ever. After the ceremony, everyone went out for dinner. A big group dinner at a restaurant where we took over an entire section. We laughed and told stories and celebrated. I felt light. Like I'd been carrying a boulder on my chest for 22 years and someone had finally lifted it off. My phone was blowing up with messages from people who'd seen Emma's update. Strangers congratulating me. Telling me they were happy I'd gotten my moment. But there was also a message from my dad. Just one. It said, "I saw the video of your ceremony. You looked happy. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I should have been there the first time." I stared at that message for a long time. And then I put my phone away and went back to celebrating. My dad watched the video of my ceremony over and over, my mom told me later. She said she'd wake up in the middle of the night and find him in his office, laptop open, watching me walk across that stage. She said he'd pause it on the moment when I smiled after getting my diploma. She said he'd cry. She said he kept saying, "What did I do? What did I do to her? How did I not see it?" And part of me felt satisfied hearing that. Part of me felt like finally he understood. Like finally there were consequences for treating me the way he did. But another part of me just felt sad. Really deeply sad. Because it shouldn't have been this hard. It shouldn't have taken millions of people telling him he was wrong. It shouldn't have taken national news coverage. It shouldn't have taken me breaking down on camera. He should have just loved me. He should have just seen me. I was right there. I was always right there. And he just never looked. Now he was looking, but it felt too late. I don't know if our relationship will ever be repaired. Maybe it will. Maybe years from now we'll figure out how to be in the same room without all this pain. But right now we don't really talk. He sends me texts sometimes. Checking in. Asking how I am. Telling me he loves me. Sending me articles he thinks I'd find interesting. Trying to build a relationship he never bothered to build for 22 years. And I respond with short answers because I don't know what else to do. I'm not ready to forgive him. I might never be. And I think I'm okay with that. Because I've learned something really important through all of this. Something that changed my entire perspective on life. I've learned that sometimes being the overlooked child, being the one who nobody pays attention to, being the forgotten one, actually becomes your biggest advantage. Because while they weren't watching, I was learning. I was growing. I was developing resilience and independence and strength. I was becoming someone who didn't need their approval. Someone who didn't need their validation. Someone who knew her own worth even when nobody else saw it. They thought I was weak because I never fought back. They thought I was a pushover because I always went along with what they wanted. But I wasn't weak. I was just waiting. Waiting and watching and learning. Learning exactly who they were. Learning exactly how little they valued me. Learning exactly how much I could endure. And when that moment came, when Emma posted that video and I finally spoke up, when I finally let the world see what they'd done, they realized they'd underestimated me my entire life. They'd underestimated the quiet daughter who never caused problems. They'd forgotten that quiet people are quiet because they're listening. They're watching. They're remembering everything. And when they finally speak, people pay attention. You want to know what I'm doing now? Because this is the best part. This is the part that makes everything worth it. I speak at high schools and colleges. I tell my story to auditoriums full of students. I get invited to speak at assemblies and workshops and conferences. Especially to girls. Especially to the ones in the back who look invisible, the ones who never raise their hands, the ones who make themselves small. The ones who are trying to be perfect so maybe their parents will notice them. The ones who think their worth is tied to how useful they are to other people. The ones who are living the life I lived. I tell them what I learned the hard way. That you are not a supporting character in someone else's story. That you are the main character in your own story, and you get to decide what that story looks like. That your dreams matter just as much as anyone else's. That you don't owe your family your silence if they're hurting you. That setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. That choosing yourself doesn't make you a bad person. That it's okay to take up space. It's okay to be loud. It's okay to demand to be seen. It's okay to walk away from people who make you feel small, even if those people are your family. Especially if those people are your family. And every single time I give one of these talks, without fail, girls come up to me afterwards crying. They wait in line, sometimes for an hour, just to talk to me for 2 minutes. They tell me their own stories. Stories that break my heart. About missed recitals because their brother had a game and dad could only go to one thing. About skipped birthday parties because their sister needed help planning her sweet 16. About being told they're selfish for wanting their parents to show up for them. About being the family therapist at age 12. About raising their younger siblings because mom was too busy. About giving up scholarships because the family needed them to work. About dreams deferred and postponed and eventually abandoned because everyone else's needs came first. About being invisible in their own homes. And I tell every single one of them what I wish someone had told me when I was their age. That it's not selfish to want to be seen. That you're not asking for too much. That you deserve better. That being the forgotten child isn't your fault. That you are enough exactly as you are. Some of them thank me through tears. Some of them just hug me and cry and don't say anything at all. Some of them tell me I saved their lives, that they were planning to just accept being invisible forever, and now they realize they don't have to. And honestly, that's enough. That's everything. Every painful moment was worth it if I can help even one girl feel less alone. My relationship with Melissa is weird now. Complicated. We're in this strange in-between space where we're not close, but we're not enemies either. We text sometimes. Usually she initiates. She's trying, I'll give her that. She actually puts in effort now. She asks about my life. She remembers things I tell her, like my speaking engagements and my plans. She sent me flowers on the anniversary of my actual graduation ceremony with a card that said, "I'm proud of you." I'm sorry I didn't say that before. Small things, but they matter. They show she's changed. Or at least trying to change. I don't know if we'll ever be close like sisters are supposed to be. Like the sisters in movies who tell each other everything and talk every day and are best friends. Too much damage. Too many years of being treated like I didn't matter, like I was just an accessory to her life. But maybe we can be friendly. Maybe we can be the kind of sisters who see each other at holidays and have actual conversations. Maybe we can be the kind of sisters who genuinely care about each other's lives. Maybe that's enough. I think maybe it is. My mom is still my mom. Still avoiding conflict. Still trying to keep everyone happy. Still walking the tightrope between me and dad. But she's made some effort to actually see me now. To check in with me more. To ask how I'm doing and actually wait for a real answer instead of just a fine. To listen when I talk instead of just waiting for her turn to speak. She came to one of my speaking engagements. She sat in the audience and listened to me tell my story, the story of our family, in front of hundreds of strangers. She cried the whole time. Afterwards, she hugged me and said, "I'm sorry. I should have protected you. I should have stood up for you." It wasn't enough to fix everything, but it was something. It was acknowledgement. It was the beginning of something different. Baby steps. Tiny steps. But steps nonetheless. Sometimes that's all you can ask for. And my dad? My dad went to therapy. My mom told me. She said he's been going every week for months now. Working through his guilt. Working through why he treated me the way he did. Why he loved one daughter so openly and made the other one feel invisible. Trying to understand the damage he caused. His therapist apparently told him he was engaging in something called enmeshment with Melissa and scapegoating with me. That he'd turned Melissa into the golden child who could do no wrong and me into the scapegoat who bore the blame for everything. That he'd been repeating patterns from his own childhood without realizing it. I don't know if therapy will fix him. I don't know if anything will. Therapy can help you understand why you did something, but it doesn't erase the fact that you did it. It doesn't undo the damage. But at least he's trying. At least he's acknowledging there's a problem. That's more than I expected. He asked my mom to ask me if I'd be willing to do some family therapy sessions with him. I said no. Not yet. Maybe someday. But not yet. I'm not ready. I'm still too angry. Still too hurt. Still too raw. And I think I deserve to take all the time I need to heal before I worry about his healing. The viral videos changed my life in ways I never could have imagined. In ways that still don't feel completely real. I got job offers from companies who saw my story and were impressed by my resilience, my communication skills, my ability to articulate difficult emotions. I got scholarship offers for graduate school from universities who wanted to support me, who believed in me, who saw potential in me. I even got invited to speak at conferences about family dynamics and favoritism and parentification. I became, accidentally, an advocate. Someone who speaks up for the forgotten children. Someone who tells the stories that people don't want to hear. People started a small GoFundMe for me even though I never asked for money, never wanted money, and they raised enough to pay off my student loans completely. Can you believe that? Strangers on the internet, people I'd never met, people who just saw my story and felt something, cared about me more than my own family had for most of my life. They paid off $40,000 in student loans. Just because they wanted to help. Just because they saw someone struggling and decided to do something about it. It's wild. It's overwhelming. It's beautiful. And sometimes I still can't believe it's real. Sometimes I wake up and think I'm going to be back in that storage closet at my sister's wedding. Back in that kitchen. Back in that apron with the smiling tomatoes. Crying alone while everyone else celebrates. Feeling worthless and invisible and forgotten. But then I remember. I remember that I spoke up. I remember that people listened. I remember that I matter. And that changes everything. That makes all of it, every painful moment, every tear, every night spent feeling like I wasn't enough, worth it. Because I'm not that girl anymore. I'm not the invisible daughter. I'm not the forgotten one. I'm Tasha, and I graduated from college despite everything, and millions of people know my story, and I'm using that story to help others. That's power. That's purpose. That's everything. So here's what I want you to take away from this whole mess of a story, from this journey from invisible daughter to accidental advocate. If you've ever been the forgotten one, the overlooked one, the one who's always in the background making everyone else's life easier while your own life falls apart, listen to me very carefully. You are not invisible. You are not worthless. You are not asking for too much when you want to be seen and loved and valued. You are not selfish for wanting your own moments. You are not wrong for wanting your achievements to matter. Your family might not recognize your worth. They might take you for granted. They might make you feel like you're being dramatic when you express your feelings. They might make you feel like you're being selfish when you're really just trying to survive. They might gaslight you into thinking you're the problem. But that doesn't mean they're right. It just means they're too blind to see what they have. Too selfish to look beyond their own needs. Too comfortable with the way things are to change. And eventually, if you stand up for yourself, if you speak your truth even when your voice is shaking, even when you're terrified, even when you think nobody will listen, people will see you. The right people will see you. And that will change everything. It changed everything for me. I went from being the girl who wore an apron at her sister's wedding, serving food while she should have been graduating, to being the girl who inspired hundreds of thousands of people to set boundaries with their families. I went from feeling worthless to feeling powerful. I went from being invisible to being seen by millions. And if I can do that, if the quiet, forgotten daughter can become someone whose voice matters, so can you. Before I go, before I leave you, I need you to do something for me. If this story resonated with you at all, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever sacrificed your own dreams to make someone else happy, if you've ever been told you're asking for too much when really you're asking for the bare minimum, drop a heart in the comments. Tell me your story if you want to. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me I'm not crazy for still being angry about all of this, for still feeling hurt, for still working through it all. And please hit that like button and subscribe because I've got more stories to tell and you're not going to want to miss them. I'm done being quiet. I'm done pretending everything is fine when it's not. I'm done making myself small so other people can feel big. And I hope after hearing my story, after spending this time with me, you'll be done with that too. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most will hurt you the worst. Sometimes your own family will make you feel like you don't matter. Sometimes the people who should protect you will be the ones you need protecting from. But you do matter. You always did. You always will. They were just too selfish, too blind, too caught up in their own world to see it. Don't wait for them to wake up. Don't wait for a viral video to prove your worth. Don't wait for millions of strangers to validate your pain before you believe it's real. You are worthy right now, exactly as you are, even if nobody in your life is telling you that. I'm telling you. And I mean it with every fiber of my being. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being here. Thank you for reading all the way to the end. If I helped even one person feel less alone today, if I helped even one forgotten daughter realize she deserves better, then all of that pain was worth it. Every single tear. Every single moment of feeling worthless. Every single time I was overlooked. It was all worth it if it helped someone else. Drop those hearts in the comments. Tell me where you're from. Tell me your story. And remember this. Remember it forever. Being the forgotten child isn't your weakness. It's not your flaw. It's not your shame. It's your secret weapon. They forgot you were watching. They forgot you were listening. They forgot you were learning. They forgot you were getting stronger every single day. And one day, when you finally stand up and show them who you really are, when you finally let the world see the strength you've been building in silence, they're going to realize they should have paid attention all along. They're going to realize what they lost. They're going to realize you were never the problem. They were. Trust me. I know. I lived it. And I survived it. And so will you.